Hello, my friends. So I am going to go through parts of my Revelation 9 study. This is kind of a continuation of what I have been doing live streams about, reading through the written study part that I did, excluding a lot of the scriptures, but kind of giving them for reference if you want to look them up because they're there. But for the sake of brevity, just reading through the parts that I wrote. Revelation 1, 2, 3, 4, in large part, 5, parts of 6, all of 7, and now we're going to go to Revelation 9. The reason I want to do this is because I want to help people understand who might not readily understand that the Revelation 6 rider and the Revelation 13 beast are not the same. There may be questions about, well, what happens to the Revelation 6 rider? We are not told, so it is not deemed important information to have. So I can't answer that for you. But what we need to understand is that the Revelation 13 beast, who ascends out of the bottomless pit, is vastly different from the Revelation 6 rider on the white horse, who starts the 70th week. We are told who the Revelation 13 beast is. We are told where he is. We are told why he is there. We are told when specifically he shall ascend and how long he will be on the scene during the 70th week, which is 1,260 days plus 3.5. So hopefully it makes things a lot easier to understand, and hopefully it makes the layout of the book of Revelation significantly easier to understand when we realize that these are two different people. And the reason why I believe it is so important to discuss this is because there are way too many people who talk about deception and delusion over the world at the commencement of the 70th week. No, that's associated to the beast and the second half of the 70th week. There are too many people who introduce topics like the mark of the beast or worship of the beast or beast quote unquote system. No, that's related to the second half of the 70th week. Just about all of the error that people make in attributing beast characteristics to the Revelation 6 rider make it so that people are infinitely fearful about what we may see, how close we may be to it, what might happen while we're still here. And this is why I believe that it is so important to differentiate between the two, because once you understand, you put them in their correct buckets, and once you understand what is specifically associated to whom and when during the 70th week it shall be attributed to that person, you realize that we, the church, will be removed from any of what people are fearful about by the space of at least 3.5 years. So there is nothing to worry about. I have a recent video where I discuss why it's important not to call the 70th week the tribulation. And let me find that real quick. I want to know what I titled it. I think it was a live stream. Yes. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. It was titled Why We Should Call It Daniel's 70th Week and Not the Tribulation, and what tribulation really refers to. And then I have another video that is called Stop Speculating. It is Unnecessary. Learn when 70th week deception will occur, who it will apply to. Those are very recent live streams. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, I would. And hopefully if you are mistaking the Revelation 6 rider and the Revelation 13 beast for being the same person, hopefully this will allay some of your fears. But what I want to do is help people understand why the beast is so terrible, why the people who are in the 70th week have basically no shot at living, why we're being removed from this altogether, and really just trying to help portray the terribleness of this person. But keeping in mind, we are going to be 3.5 years removed from seeing this person. It's not even a person, it's an angel. He's the angel of the bottomless pit. And that's part of why he's so terrible, is because he can't be killed, and angels have significantly more power than a human does. Let's just be honest about that. They do. But hopefully when we understand kind of the ins and outs of this person, and we understand where Revelation very, very clearly specifies who he is, what he's going to do, when he comes on the scene, how he comes on the scene, why he can't come on the scene sooner. it gives answers to all of these questions, not just the book of Revelation, but the parallel passages in the Bible give supporting information for this. So I think that it's important for the sake of giving people peace, and if people were to be fearful, because there are a lot of people who have turned into essentially conspiracy theorists, and they're looking for something hiding around every single corner, and they're trying to attach meaning to every single thing because they're trying their hardest not to be deceived. And so they're creating issues where there are none just to say it is something it's not, just to say they're not deceived. It's really creating a whole huge issue when people don't understand the layout of the book of Revelation. They don't understand the people and places and things and timing of the book of Revelation. This is part of the reason why I don't listen to other channels, because frankly, I can't take it and I don't want to have to take it. So Revelation 9 is called the Beast of the Bottomless Pit, Apollyon the Destroyer. Revelation 17:8 says, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go about his destruction, or go into perdition. Perdition is the Greek word Apollyon. That's why he's named Apollyon, because perdition is destruction. He's properly named the destroyer. And the fact that he was and is not and shall be again in the future, shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Well, Revelation 11 rather, tells you specifically when he ascends out of the bottomless pit. And Peter, 1st, 2nd Peter, perhaps even Jude, we'll go through those, tell you why he can't ascend before that. So there's a whole lot of information in the Bible about this. And this is why I like studying, because we piece it all together. And when we piece it all together, we get infinitely more clarity. And with that clarity comes peace. And the removal, the dismissal of fear about this. So this is where I'm going to go with this. If this isn't interesting to you, great. If it is interesting to you, hopefully you get something out of it. So in this chapter, we will be introduced to Trumpet 5 and Trumpet 6, the first two of the three woes. The reason I am doing this as a screen share of the study is because I have a crap ton color-coded in here to show you the relationships between scriptures. I love color coding. I love me a good color coding. And so I did that in this chapter to help make it easier to make the links without having to read like whole long passages of scripture. You can see key words that are shared through them to help bring this together. So that's why I'm doing this rather than just doing a read through. It is a read through, but I'm going to share it on my screen so that you can see relationships more easily than if I were just reading it with my face on the screen. So in this chapter, we will be introduced to Trumpet 5 and Trumpet 6, the first two of the three woes. The last verse in Revelation 8 previewed them as woes due to their severity. Revelation 8:13, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound. So I'm going to skip down to where we're going to start talking about Mr. Beast. So Trumpet 5 is where he is named, but Trumpet 6 is really where he is embodied, I guess. But the gist of Trumpet 5 is that the locusts, which we would normally expect to eat grass and green things, will be given the command to abstain or refrain from their normal activities and to harm men instead. There are three specific components to this judgment. The sealed 144,000 must be excluded. The judgment will last for 5 months, and no one who is impacted will be able to die. It is important to note that the purpose of this woe is to torment, but not to kill. As such, these locusts will have tails like that of a scorpion, and it is with these tails they will torment men via stings. We will come back to the physical description of these locusts, but at this point I want to venture into a bit of a different conversation that regards their present and future kings. This is very important to understand the timing of the Battle of Gog and Magog. Why? During our discussion of Revelation 6's Seal 1, I stated the following. Revelation 6:2's bow is linked to the Bible's first use of the word in the Old Testament. Revelation 6:2 is I saw a rider on a white horse. He had a bow. A crown is given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. The bow goes back to Genesis 9:13. It is a symbol that a covenant is in place. Thus, we have concretely identified the start of Daniel's 70th week via covenant confirmation in the book of Revelation. Revelation 6:2. That's the start of the 70th week with the Daniel 9:27 covenant. It is now important to recall that Zechariah showed us the four horsemen in relationship to judgment and to the physical temple. As the Septuagint stated, the rebuilding of the temple is the strength behind the covenant. And the covenant will prevail for many. It will return again and be rebuilt broad and long. That's the first part of Daniel 9:27 in the Septuagint, telling you that the start of the 70th week is linked to the covenant, which is linked to the temple. And rebuild it they will, directly after Ezekiel 38 and 39's battle of Gog and Magog. In fact, it should come as no surprise that the only remaining physical temple from Scripture is Ezekiel's. And Ezekiel's end times vision, which commences in Ezekiel 40, not only begins with the measuring for his temple, but also pinpoints said measurements to Nisan 10 of a Jubilee year. This it would do, the Nisan 10 part, since all weeks of years in Daniel's 70 weeks prophecy have a Nisan 10 start date, including the 70th week. While it is true that Ezekiel's temple will be the millennial temple, it is also true that it will serve as the 70th week temple. Daniel, Ezekiel, and Isaiah all align on this point, and for that fact, Revelation does as well, which is in Revelation 11 amidst Trumpet 6, because it's brought in to tell you that the people who are at it, the two witnesses, and the temple itself are pertinent to the Trumpet 6 judgment and the next, which is Trumpet 7, because it is at the midpoint, Trumpet 7, where it shall be desolated. Ezekiel 38 and 39 directly precede the start of Daniel's 70th week. This is borne out when studying the strength behind Daniel 9:27's covenant confirmation, which is the measuring for the third and final temple in Scripture. The main point here in relation to Revelation 9, though, is the locust army. Just as the Septuagint clarifies the event which underpins the commencement of the 70th week, the Septuagint also clarifies who Gog is that will lead the event which happens directly before the commencement of Daniel's 70th week. Amos 7:1. This is in the Septuagint, and then I transfer over to the KJV. Thus the Lord showed me, and behold, an early offspring of grasshoppers coming, and behold, one locust larva, Gog the king. So Gog is the king of the locusts. The king of the locusts and the grasshoppers. Take that over to Joel 1 and 2, and you will readily understand why we're talking about the locusts and the grasshoppers. However, during the 70th week, Gog is not their king. And it will be if they finish to devour the grass of the land. And I said, O Lord, be gracious. Who will raise up Jacob, because he is very small? The Lord repented for this. He changed his mind. It shall not be, saith the Lord. Thus hath the Lord God showed unto me, and behold, the Lord God called to contend by fire, and it devoured the great deep, and did eat up apart. Then said I, O Lord God, cease, I beseech thee. By whom shall Jacob arise? For he is small. The Lord repented for this. This also shall not be, saith the Lord. Thus he showed me, and behold, the Lord stood upon a wall made by a plumb line, with the plumb line in his hand. And the Lord said unto me, Amos, what seest thou? And I said, a plumb line. Then saith the Lord, behold, I will set a plumb line in the midst of my people Israel. It will not again pass by them any more. And the high place of Isaac shall be desolate, and the sanctuaries of Israel shall be laid waste, and I will raise up again the house of Jeroboam with the sword. So there's going to be a Gog invasion attempt. God says, nope, not going to happen. And then there's a plumb line, which is related to measuring, and then there's judgment. These words mirror text from Ezekiel 39 and 43 regarding God's activity and purpose toward Israel and Israel's activity and purpose toward God, all resulting from God's intervention during Gog and Magog. God's activity and purpose toward Israel, read Ezekiel 39:22 through 29. And Israel's activity and purpose toward God is contained in Ezekiel 43, verses 7 through 12. God's purpose with defeating Gog, G-O-G, on the world stage is twofold. so that the heathen may know him, and so that Israel may know that her God is living and working on her behalf. The immediate building of the temple and the aftermath of Gog and Magog underlies the world's terror of God, G-O-D, and Israel's shame for not having followed her God. However, the defeat of Gog, G-O-G, and his army is the defeat of the king of the locusts and his locust army. Yes, there will be others along with him, but Gog is identified in Amos as the king of the locusts. When we come to Revelation 9, since Gog will have died and been given a place of burial in Ali's Valley. When we come to Revelation 9, since Gog will have died and been given a place of burial in Israel's valley of Hamon-Gog, we see that the locusts will have been appointed a new king. This new king is named in Revelation 9:11. And please don't mistake me for saying that the bottomless pit is going to be opened in Ezekiel 38 and 39, Gog and Magog. I'm saying that Gog is going to be a principality who is supernatural in origin. He is called a prince of Meshach and Tubal, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Prince is short for principality, like Daniel's princes, the prince of Persia, the prince of Grecia, Michael the great prince, Messiah the prince, those kind of things. Prince is short for principality. Not saying that he's an angel, and not saying that he is like a demon, saying that there is a supernatural origin to this battle and that he is their leader of a supernatural sort. But he's going to have a natural body and he's going to die. And that's not to say that his army is going to be composed of demons, because there's nothing in the Old Testament that says that these people are coming from the bottomless pit. It is simply noting text in the Old Testament that has a similar relationship to text in the New Testament. And in the New Testament, there is legitimacy to the literal bottomless pit opening and a literal angel ascending and a literal locust army and all of that stuff. Except they're supernatural demons at that point. So there's relationship, there's similarity, but that doesn't mean that Gog is an angel. He's not. He can be killed. Angels can't be killed. And that's not to say that there's going to be little demon locusts in Gog and Magog. Just that the origins of this are supernatural in their intent. Meaning outside of the natural. Revelation 9, let's see. So Gog is going to be given a burial place in Israel's valley of Hamon-Gog. We see that the locusts will have been appointed a new king. The new king is named in Revelation 9:11. They had a king over them, which was the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. To tie several chapters and books together, we need to follow the sequence of events to further ascertain why we are being given the name of this angel. Who is he? Why is he relevant? Well, there's a previous reference to that I made in some other thing I was talking about, to Revelation 17:8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. Note that I have color coding starting here. Apollyon is black, and so is perdition, because they are the same thing. They that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So the real question is, why is he is not? In Revelation 17:8, we are told several things about Apollyon. He is the beast. He is not. He is in the bottomless pit. He will go into perdition. Perdition is the Greek word Apollyon. This is why I have these two things highlighted the same, is because perdition is the Greek word Apollyon. He is properly named Apollyon. Apollyon means destruction, and it is the proper name for the beast in Revelation 9:11, Apollyon the destroyer. We can further tie these verses together by his location within the bottomless pit. The main difference here is that Revelation 17:8 refers to Apollyon as the beast. And this is the tie to Daniel 9, to Daniel 7, and Revelation 13. I will highlight the pertinent language between the passages for ease of identification, which is why I'm doing a screen share, because there's a whole crap ton, like I said earlier, of color coding. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'm just going to highlight some things. Revelation 7, Revelation 13 similarity. You've got 4 great beasts coming out of the sea and a beast rising up out of the sea. You've got a reference to 10 horns. You've got references to the 3 who came before the 4th great beast, which was the bear, the leopard, and the lion. What else do you have? A mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And then the relationship of Revelation 17 up here, saying that all that dwell on the earth when he rises out of the bottomless pit shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life. And you have that in Revelation 13 also. So there's some relationships between Revelation 17, 13, and Daniel 7 to tell you what we're looking at here. This is the beast whose body will be given to the burning flame when Jesus returns at the second coming, and we see that in Revelation 19. And it was also prophesied in Daniel 7. I beheld even till the beast was slain, his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. And that is in Revelation 19:20. These both, talking about the beast and false prophet, beast 1 and beast 2, these both were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. Next, we have the specific reference to the point in time where the beast will ascend from the bottomless pit. That's in Revelation 11:7. When they shall have finished their testimony, talking about the two witnesses, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit. Ascendeth is written in the present tense, meaning that he's doing it at that time. So when they shall have finished their testimony, which is 3.5 days before they ascend to heaven. Because part of their time to prophesy includes their testimony of death turned to life by one who's greater than the beast, who is Jesus, who breathes life back into them and then stands them up on their feet and brings them up to heaven. So they're finishing their testimonies, their verbal testimony. Their time to prophesy is 3.5 days longer than that, which is, like I said, the rest of the events. The world seeing them dead, then seeing them living, and then seeing them called up hither. But he ascends for the express purpose of ending their verbal ministry at that time, as a present tense to that situation. So the beast that ascends at that time shall make war against them, shall overcome them and kill them. Amidst Trumpet 6, specifically 3.5 days before its conclusion, the beast will ascend from the bottomless pit, overcome and kill the two witnesses. This is the reason for the appearance of the deadly head wound from Revelation 13. For now, the final reference is to tie Revelation 9:11 to Daniel via his title of king. And this we can easily do by two other references we just plotted out. So there are two references to him being the king. This is actually from Daniel 8 and Daniel 11. The reference specifically regarding or centered around, I guess, the abomination of desolation, the mouth, him being given a mouth, speaking great words and blasphemies, and then being given power to continue. Daniel 8 is the first reference to him as a king. He's called the king of fierce countenance. And we understand that he is the same king of the locusts, angel of the bottomless pit from Revelation, because he shall magnify himself in his heart, and he shall also stand up against the prince of princes and shall be broken without hand. Yes, because he's going to be killed with the sword that proceeds out of Jesus' mouth. The second reference to him being a king in the book of Daniel is the willful king. The king shall do according to his will. This is the abomination of desolation described in the book of Daniel. In chapter 8, it says he will magnify himself in his heart, which also is what Daniel 7 says. But you're told specifically in Daniel 9:27 that occurs in the midst of the week. He shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate. So actually Daniel 7, Daniel 8, and Daniel 11 all tell you what the abomination of desolation is, and Daniel 9 tells you when it shall occur. And that's again going to be related to Revelation 13:5. But he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. Read, he shall be given power to continue 40 months. So he is on the scene in the 70th week for the second half, 42 months, 1,260 days, plus the 3.5 where he ascends from the bottomless pit, and he is there until the two witnesses have life breathed back into them. They stand on their feet, ascend to heaven. The second woe is past, behold, the third woe cometh quickly, and that is when the abomination of desolation shall occur. Not the first thing that happens at the sounding of the seventh trumpet, but one of the things that happens at the sounding of the seventh trumpet nevertheless. So here we return to Revelation 9:11. We've learned all about this king of the locusts, the fourth beast, Apollyon the destroyer, who shall eventually commit the abomination of desolation in the midst of Daniel's 70th week. So they had the king over them, which is the locusts. So he's the king, the willful king, the king of fierce countenance, the king of the locusts, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. For now he is locked inside the bottomless pit. To some it may seem odd that he does not ascend out of the bottomless pit immediately after it's opened. And I say that because it's opened in Trumpet 5. The little demon locusts come out of it, and they are there tormenting men but not killing them for 5 months. It is only amidst Trumpet 6, and specifically at an appointed time, when he is allowed to ascend. So simply because it's opened does not mean he's ascending out of it. Other things are, not him. So this is where we get into the why he cannot. Who is he? Why is he there? It's quite fascinating, actually. To some, it may seem odd that he does not ascend out of the bottomless pit immediately after it's opened. Well, the reason he does not will be discussed in Revelation 11 when we actually see him rise. Suffice it to say at this point, the reason he does not is because he cannot. Recall Trumpet 5 and Trumpet 6 are all about appointed times. At this point, it has become clear that Apollyon is not and cannot be the rider on the white horse from Revelation 6, because he's in the bottomless pit, folks. And he doesn't come out until Trumpet 6, which is well after Seal 1. So regardless of what anyone thinks about who he is or why he's there or whatever, he can't be. He is not because he cannot be the Revelation 6 rider on the white horse. The information we've gone through illustrates the logistical impossibility that the Revelation 6 rider on the white horse and Revelations 13 beast are the same entity. This will be further demonstrated when we get to Revelation 11 and 13 and discuss why Apollyon is where he is and why he cannot ascend before his appointed time. At this point, it is time to round out discussion of Trumpet 5 by discussing the physical appearance of these locusts that Apollyon will rule over. So I'm going to find the next place where I want to start from. So the transition between Trumpet 5 and Trumpet 6 is that men will desire to seek... This is how bad Trumpet 5 is going to be. And it's not even second half of the 70th week. It's just going to be that bad. It is ironic. Or perhaps it's simply the justice of God giving men what they desperately wish to have. But Trumpet 5 in Revelation 9:6 says, "In those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them." This is because they will be amidst the torment of the locusts, and they will be unable to die, but they will wish to. But Trumpet 6, the wish for death shall be granted. And I don't know how horrible or horrific that death will be, but 1/3 of the earth is going to perish. And as I've stated previously, I don't know if it's 1/3 of the earth or if it's just that they die in 3 parts. Anytime you see a reference, so Ezekiel in the King James, Ezekiel 39 says, I will turn thee back and leave but the 6th part of thee. It doesn't mean that 5/6 of Gog's army is going to die. It means they're all going to die. Leave but the 6th part means that they're all going to die, but there's 6 different ways. In Revelation, it uses the same language. In Seal 4, the 4th part of the earth shall die by the sword, by famine, by pestilence, and by wild beasts. So the 4th part doesn't necessarily mean 25%. It means that they're going to die. Whoever dies under that seal will die in 4 different ways. It could also mean that 25% of the world dies. That's something that we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. Well, we won't wait and see, but the world will wait and see. But the same language is used here in Trumpet 6. The 3rd part, well, they'll die in 3 different ways. So the 4th part means in 4 different ways, the 3rd part means in 3 different ways, and the 6th part means in 6 different ways. So the totality of Gog's army will die in 6 different ways. In Seal 4, the totality of those who die under that seal will die in 4 different ways. And in Revelation 9, the 6th trumpet, the totality of those who will die under this judgment will die in 3 different ways. I don't know, and I will not state whether it is true or not because I don't know, that it relates to a specific number. What it does do is relate to a number of ways in which people will perish in those judgment events. So, what we do know is that in Trumpet 5, they're going to want to die and can't, but in Trumpet 6, they're going to die, whether or not they want to. Trumpet 6, the important part about Trumpet 6 is that it's all about appointed times. On a personal note, it was with the language contained in this specific trumpet judgment where I came to understand in no uncertain terms that the 70th week has an appointed time. This is my aha moment regarding that there was a specific day upon which I was meant to look in the Old Testament to find when the 70th week was going to commence. was studying Revelation 9, which doesn't relate to the start of the 70th week, but it does relate to the presence of appointed times. There is a specific hour, day, month, and year for to slay the third part of men, which tells you that it's not going to change. There is a specific day in view, already prophesied. What is that day? Well, I don't know. But what I do know is that if that is specific day, month, hour, and year already set aside, reserved for this, then that means that the start of the 70th week has a day reserved for it, and the midpoint of the 70th week has a day reserved for it, and the end of the 70th week has a day reserved for it, and the second coming and the rapture all have specific days reserved for it. So it was with this language where I said, yup, we need to be looking for very specific times, very specific data points given in the Old Testament, because they're not going to be in the New, but they'll be in the Old. This was where I had that aha moment, and I said, yeah, there is one day in view for the start of the 70th week. There has to be, because otherwise the statement in Trumpet 6 could not be true. If it were a moving target, if the start of the 70th week could just happen at any time, if it were a moving target, there would be no way to prophesy in advance the specific day upon which the 4 angels will be loosed to slay the third part of men. But there is a specific hour, day, month, and year for that to occur, which means everything else is already set in stone. So that was where I came to that conclusion. And why my research is different from other people's, because they do believe it's a moving target. I don't. If and since there are 4 angels kept bound for a specific hour, day, month, and year, that means their release from bondage is an immobile target. Since it cannot be moved, neither sped nor slowed, that means everything else that surrounds the event would follow the same rules. Once I realized that, it made studying the end times significantly easier because I had fixed data to look for. Furthermore, once I understood what that fixed data was related to, I was able to find the beginning of the 70th week from a day, month, and year perspective, as well as identify the specific event that day, month, and year is related to. The rest, they say, is history. Returning to Trumpet 6, we find the presence of an appointed time. At this appointed time, and that doesn't mean, when I say appointed time, I'm not talking about feast dates. I know other people link those two appointed times to feast dates. I'm not talking about that. When I say an appointed time, I mean that God has slotted a specific day, month, hour, and year for these things. That is his appointed time. Doesn't mean it's related to a feast. So please do not put words in my mouth and say, I said it was going to be a feast. I'm not saying that. Other people might link those two things. I do not. But at the appointed time that God has determined for Trumpet 6, the angels will be loosed and given command of the supernatural army described in the remainder of the chapter. Greek chimera-like creatures who will be used to slay the third part of men. The language used here, third part, and I already talked about that, should draw our attention back to 2 other reference points which use the same language. This is a style of writing used to indicate that the totality of those who will die under this specific judgment will do so in 3 ways. Revelation 6 said the 4th part, and you note 4 ways that people will die under that seal. The 4th part of the earth, death and hell, were given power over the 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So 4 different ways. Under seal 4, the 4th part will die with the sword, hunger, death, and wild beasts. Here in Trumpet 6, the 3rd part will die via smoke, fire, and brimstone. The smoke, fire, and brimstone is not courtesy of the 4 angels bound in the great river Euphrates, rather it's courtesy of a 200 million man supernatural army. The 3rd time in Scripture where the X number part is used is Ezekiel 39 to describe the 6 ways in which the army of Gog and Magog will die. This is referred to as leaving the 6th part of thee. That's in Ezekiel 39:2. I will turn thee back and leave but the 6th part of thee. The 6 ways that they will die were named in Ezekiel 38:22. I will plead against them with pestilence. 1, blood. 2, I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain. 3, great hailstones. 4, fire. 5, and brimstone. 6. So that's what that refers to. I'm not dogmatic that 25% of the world will die in seal 4, which they might, but I'm not dogmatic about it, and I'm not dogmatic that 33% of the world will die in Trumpet 6. It's 4th part 4 ways, 3rd part 3 ways, 6th part 6 ways. But it could mean the other thing, doesn't mean that it does. While there is some similarity between the army in Trumpet 6 and the locust army in Trumpet 5, they are not the same. so I'm not going to go through that any longer. Let's see. While it is true the armies of Trumpet 5 and 6 will wreak havoc and utter devastation on the land and the people of Israel, they will be no match for the power of God through Christ. It is important to keep perspective about all the chaos we understand will eventually unfold. Jesus is infinitely greater, and there is nothing he does not know, and nothing and no one he cannot defeat. The end of the book is already written. Jesus wins. Fast forward to the Revelation 11 study, and we are back at discussion of Mr. Beast. We are now at the point where we can discuss more about who Apollyon is and why he cannot ascend out of the bottomless pit prior to day 1,256 and a half of the two witnesses ministry. Remember I said he's given power to continue 40 and 2 months, so his entire time on the world stage is 42 months or 1,260 days plus 3.5. Once upon a time, there was a corrupt world where the angels who kept not their first estate, who rebelled against God and chose not to keep the laws of heaven, left heaven along with Satan and went to earth to procreate with humans and create their own offspring. Jesus told us during his ministry that the angels of heaven are not permitted to marry or be given in marriage, necessary requirements under God's law for procreation. The moral of this story is that angels were never supposed to be parents. They do not possess the same triune nature that man does on account of being created in the image of the triune God. Man possesses body, soul, and spirit. Angels only possess bodies and spirits. They do not possess souls. Thus, their progeny, the giants, also did not have souls. The angels who kept not their first estate procreated with human women to beget soulless creatures incapable of being redeemed. Remember, there was only evil in their hearts continually. Genesis 6 tells us that. They were not part of mankind. This is why God destroyed the world with water. Genesis 6, 1 through 8. It came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, which are the angels who kept not their first estate, saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and took of them wives, all which they chose, which were told, there is no marrying or being given in marriage in heaven. So they came to earth to do the things which they were not allowed to do, and were against God's law for the angels. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children unto them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowl of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. While Revelation 12 tells us that 1/3 of the angels fell, the Bible does not tell us that all of those 1/3 that fell mated with human women. However, the Bible does tell us that the ones who did are presently confined on account of that specific sin. Jude 1:6, the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Peter is more specific. 1 Peter 3:18, for Christ also hath once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit, by which he also went and preached unto the spirits in prison. This is the wicked spirits, which sometimes were disobedient when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was a preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by water. So what that tells you is the wicked spirits in prison is actually a reference to the bottomless pit. He went and proclaimed victory over those who were confined from the days of Noah because they did bad stuff. During his 3 days in the grave, Jesus descended into the heart of the earth, also known as the abyss or bottomless pit, to proclaim victory over the wicked spirits, angels who kept not their first estate, who are presently bound in chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day. The great day begins in Revelation 6 with the opening of seal 1. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? 2 Peter 2:4, for if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, etc. Trumpet 6 is specifically about the loosing of bound angels for the purpose of wreaking judgment upon the earth. Recall that we are presently amidst Trumpet 6 in Revelation 11, which began in Revelation 9. Apollyon the Destroyer is simply another one of those bound angels. The main difference is that he is to be the brute beast most central to Revelation's storyline. Said brute beast will be loosed at his appointed time to ascend out of the bottomless pit and overcome and kill the two witnesses. Call him a brute beast because that is what I think 2 Peter 2? Yeah, 2 Peter 2 called them brute beasts. I probably didn't include the verse, but that's why I called him that, because 2 Peter 2 calls him that. But his appointed time to ascend is Revelation 11:7. When they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. Jesus went down and proclaimed victory over a group of angels who included this beast nearly 2,000 years ago. However, Apollyon has been stewing in chains, literally, for approximately 4,500 years since the flood, when he was confined, just waiting for this day. The first thing he will do when he is released from his imprisonment is kill God's two witnesses. How much of a victory do you think he will see it as to have killed those to whom God gave power? A huge one, because nobody else could, remember? Nobody else but him. It's probably the beast who stirs up the crowd to celebrate their demise. This is why it's so important to note that their entire time to prophesy includes not only their verbal testimony, but also the Spirit of God being breathed back into them right in front of everyone. And their probably very slow ascensions up to heaven at God's command, along with 144,000. God will be making a point. The beast has no power that he is not given. God and God alone has the final power over life and death. The next question may be, where in Revelation 11 does it say the two witnesses are caught up with 144,000? So I think we are done. Let me skip ahead to Revelation 13 and see if there's anything else to discuss that I have not already discussed. But I think that should tell us everything we need to know about this beast, where he is, why he's there, when he shall be released, why he can't come out when the bottomless pit is open, because he's bound in chains. I hope this clarifies some stuff, but let me fast forward to Revelation 13 and see if there's anything else I missed. So this is talking about in Revelation 13, moving into the next verses of Revelation 13, we're going to find more imagery which leads us back to Revelation 11 and the sequence of events as they pertain to the end of Trumpet 6. This is what Revelation 13 does, is it starts off with Trumpet 6 and moves into Trumpet 7 with the abomination of desolation in verse 5. But the preceding text, when he ascends out of the bottomless pit or rises up out of the sea, that's amidst Trumpet 6, like we found out in Revelation 11:7. So that's in Revelation 13:1. And in verse 3, it says, I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. His deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto him who is able to make war with him? I cannot accurately convey the amount of ideas I've heard tossed around over the years with respect to what people believe this deadly head wound is. This is the type of situation where we should conclude that less speculation adds more value. We don't need to speculate at all. We are already told why this would be the case. Revelation 11:3, I will give power unto my two witnesses. They shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. If any man will hurt them, fire proceed out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. So the beast has the appearance of a deadly head wound because he overcame them and killed them. And they're given the power to hurt anyone who tries to kill them in the same manner. So he's given a deadly head wound because he probably gave them deadly head wounds. I mean, this makes sense, right? The beast will have the appearance of a deadly head wound because he will face off with those who will be given power to overcome and kill anyone who comes against them. Yet, because the beast is an angel and thus unkillable, he will only be given the appearance of a deadly head wound, not an actual deadly head wound. Additionally, we are told in Revelation 11 why all the world will wonder after the beast. Because, or worship him, because they hated the two witnesses so much. So much that they sent gifts and made merry over the fact that they were dead. So of course they're going to wonder after or worship the dude who killed them, because they couldn't themselves, but they are yay happy it happened. The bottom line is that the world will hate the two witnesses so much, having had 1,256 days and a half worth of their ministry to dig deeper holes of hatred, that they will automatically align with the one who kills them. The enemy of mine enemy is my friend. Since every single other person who comes against the two witnesses will lose their lives, evidence suggests that the two witnesses will indeed be the most powerful people on earth during the first half of Daniel's 70th week. Therefore, the one who is demonstrably stronger than them will indeed be the one the people hand their loyalties over to. The abomination of desolation, midpoint, trumpet 7, is in verse 5. There was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. He opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name as tabernacle of them that dwell in heaven. And we already learned that Daniel 9:27 puts that at the midpoint. And we already learned from Daniel 8, the king of fierce countenance who magnifies himself in his heart. And in Daniel 7, that he is given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And it's on account of the great words which the little horn spake, that his body will be given to the burning flame. And in Revelation 11, he's the willful king who shall do according to his will. He shall magnify himself above every god, shall speak of marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. So Revelation 13:5 is the abomination of desolation in Revelation, which is why no one should be placing the beast at any point other than midpoint, because the abomination of desolation is in Revelation 13:5. So if you're putting anything in that chapter, which the worship of the beast, image of the beast, or mark of the beast, in the first half, you're automatically doing it wrong. Because the beast doesn't even get on the world scene until day 1,256 and a half of 2,520. So you can't unintentionally worship a dude who's not here. Nobody could make a statue to a dude who's not here, and nobody could take a mark of a guy who's not here. Guy being angel, dude being angel. It's just not possible. And that's why I say I talk about this, because people are overly fearful about things that they don't understand. And if they did understand, there would be no reason. They would see that there's no reason to worry about this stuff. That is all I'm going to go through, because there's nothing else to talk about with regard to this. I'm just kind of scrolling down real quick. But I think we're done. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. But I wanted to take you through understanding of who the beast is, why he is where he is, when he shall ascend, why he can't ascend sooner, and why nobody's got anything to worry about. Because this is so far removed from us that it literally doesn't matter. So that's parts of Revelation 9, 11, and 13. Hopefully it helped. See you guys later.